get ready for a rollercoaster ride of suspense and intrigue as we follow the fearless millionaire Mark on his quest for truth. He's not afraid to get his hands dirty and go undercover as Al Bauer to uncover any necessary changes inside his company. Will Mark handle taking on the ultimate challenge of giving up his luxury beach home and private putting green, or is he gonna crack under pressure? Stick with us to find out. Mark's company, TaylorMade, is the #1 maker of high-performance golf equipment in the entire country. Mark is an outgoing, goofy guy. He was married twice and has 2 daughters. Mark is going to be going undercover as Al Bauer. His employees are going to be told that he's on a reality show of either keeping his day job or working his dream profession by becoming an employee for TaylorMade. The first employee that he encounters is Callie, who's a quality control auditor. What she does is check every golf ball at every process and make sure the quality is up to standard. Mark attempts to do her job, but it wasn't really that easy with his bad vision and turtle-like speed. The job required a lot of focus and a lot of speed, 2 skills that Mark is not really so good at. Getting close to Kaylee, Mark learns just how difficult her job can be, as she doesn't really have superiors who are above her to guide and instruct her on what to do if problems occur. So if anything bad goes wrong in the process of production, she's gonna be the only one to blame. Callie also shares some part of her personal life with Mark, telling him how she's married and how her aunt gave her a house, but the house really isn't that great, but she makes do with her husband who does construction. Next, Mark goes to see Teresa, a return supervisor. Her job is basically handling inventory and defective items, also returns that are made back to the company. Doing her job was a little difficult for Mark, who's never really had to use a computer before. But Teresa was a very funny, engaging employee, and she showed Mark whatever he needed to know in just a matter of a few hours. As they got to get close and got to know more about one another, Teresa told him that when she got transferred to this branch, they didn't really have a return supervisor or anyone who really handled the return items. So she was the one that set up the system to control everything and manage all the ins and outs of the items that are returned back to the company. Pretty inventive if you ask me. As Mark got to do more of Teresa's job, he also noticed how thousands of dollars worth of merchandise goes wasted as they have to destroy so many usable shoes that could potentially be used by the less fortunate. And on their coffee break, Mark and Teresa really hit it off as they had really great chemistry. Teresa kept opening up to Mark, telling him more about her personal life, and Mark felt a little awkward as he was just making up stories because he didn't want her finding out who he was. But at some point, it didn't really feel right to do that, so Mark reveals himself as the CEO. Next, he heads over to Jared, the demo tech. Jared's job is basically showing people a bunch of equipment and finding the right stuff for the right person. Jared always wanted to be a pro golfer. He's played multiple junior and local tournaments, but doing that on a regular basis is going to cost a lot of money, and Jared cannot afford to do that. Attempting to shadow Jared and do his job wasn't really easy for Mark. The job required a lot of attention on potential customers, and the position required an experienced and well-read person about all the equipment to pick the right stuff for the right person. But Mark, even though he used to be a salesman, really needs to brush up on his skills as he didn't perform well that day. And the closer he got to Jared, he understood just how dedicated Jared was, as Jared sometimes drives 3 hours for a demo tour by paying for gas from his own pockets. And even though he drives long distances, the company does not reimburse him for his time. Lastly, Mark heads over to headquarters and meets up with Christian, who works golf club assembly. Christian's job, just like Kylie's, required attention and speed. 2 things that we know Mark is not really good at. On their break, Mark learns just how heartbreaking Christian's life is as he had to quit college to support his mom who had skin cancer. This is not the only surprising thing that happens with Christian, as the rest of Christian's colleagues recognize Mark as the CEO of the company. This last encounter was the end of Mark's undercover mission, as he now has to take everything he knows so far and make some choices that are gonna benefit some of his employees and his company altogether. A week later, he meets up with all the employees and reveals himself. He first meets up with Kylie and gives her $3,000 to buy a new dog as she's a big dog lover, and also gives her $10,000 $10,000 to start saving for a new house. Next, Mark reveals himself to Jared and offers him $50,000 and a sponsorship as soon as he finishes college so that Jared can play golf professionally. Next, Mark meets up with Christian and offers him $10,000 for his mother's medical bills and also tells him that he now has to work half the day for a full-time pay, and they're also going to give him $15,000 each year for 2 years as a bonus to support himself and his family. And on top of all of this, Mark tells Christian that he's going to pay his entire college fees so that Christian can attend school and have a brighter future. Mark then finally sees Teresa, and he gives her a week's paid vacation and also some spending money for $5,000, and he also does more and decides to send her to a paid vacation to Australia, as that has always been her dream. Our episode today wraps up with Mark doing something else that's great for the community, as he starts a golf program within his own society and donates about $50,000.